The first topic will be the concept of res as per locator, and the second one will be the concept of contributory negligence. So these two concepts, that is res as per locator and contributory negligence, will be taken up in today's class. And in previous classes, we have already care is something differ from person to person. And if, like for example, if there is an occupier, then occupier will have duty to take care that no harsh punishment or some rude punishment is given to the intruders. That is, any in cruel manner, any punishment is given. They can protect their property, but at the same time, the occupier must avoid creating danger to the safety of trespasser. Similarly, if we talk about the duty of doctors, we say that a doctor must use care as it is expected of him. Solicitors are also liable if they are negligent in their work. Similarly, a railway company is bound to keep gates closed when train passes along the trail. So, if they fail to do so, then only we say that they are held liable for any kind of injury or wrong that has been caused because of their negligence. So similarly, we say that in case of the dangerous goods like explosive material, there is liability, absolute liability, and to take care that there is no domestic fire that is caused or to the neighboring premises. And if there is any negligence on your part, then you'll be held liable for the act of negligence. So when we are talking about these aspects, these concepts, we say that in India there are corresponding statutes that are dealing with different aspects, duty of different people in different manner. So despite these principles that are laid down or that are defining the liability of different people at different times under different laws, there are certain circumstances under which the proof of negligence is not required. And this maxim, that is res est loquitur, is something that talks about such situations. And this we will understand. We will try to understand this concept with the help of the case Municipal Corporation of Delhi versus Subhangavati. So when we talk about res est loquitur, we say that there is no burden on defendant to prove that there has been any negligence on his or her part. Right. So when we are talking about these things, this concept of res est loquitur says that thing speaks for itself. There is no explanation that is required to prove that there has been or has not been any negligence. There is absence of explanation to the event, to the circumstances that has taken place and that has led to any negligence or damages or injury as a result of the negligence of one party. The impossibility of happening of an event, that is the event would not have happened under a given situation, also is one of the thing that proves that there is no sufficient care or duty to of care has been taken up, right? And it says that the last ingredient that said that the management and control of the object causing the accident in defendant hands. There was some control, some management that was required on the part of the defendant to ensure that there are no losses or damages that have been caused. So this is the case when we talk about res per loquitur. We say that we are saying that this case, that is Municipal Corporation of Delhi versus Subhangavati, is one of the very important case under this principle, this rule of res per loquitur. Now, this is a case where three suits were filed for damages by the respondents who were the years of a diseased person who died because of the result as a result of the collapse of clock tower that was located in Chandni Chowk. And it was this clock tower was under the maintenance of corporation, that is Municipal Committee of Delhi, who was the appellant. Because why they were appellant? Because they have made an appeal before the Supreme Court against the decision of the lower court, and appellant, that is the defendant, and respondent, that are were the plaintiffs. So the facts were that the building was 80-year-old and the life of structure of the top story was from 40 to 45 years, whereas for the middle story was more than can be exceeded to another 10 years. So the collapse of the clock tower was due to the top portion that was not maintained, and it was also said by the experts after examining the building uh, specifically for the purpose, that they found that the building collapsed because it was not well maintained, and it should have been maintained by the authorities in order to avoid this kind of collapse. It was deteriorating in condition, and it deteriorated to such an extent that it was reduced to only the powder without any cementing properties. So in this case, after the uh, report that was given by the experts after examining the building, it was stated that the building was so much deteriorated that it needed some kind of maintenance, and the same was not done by the authorities. So the issues that were raised before the court were that whether the doctrine of res esper loquitur will be applicable or not, because before coming to Supreme Court, High Court has held that the principle of res esper loquitur will be applied to the case, right? So the first question that came up before the court was whether the doctrine of res esper loquitur will be applicable or not. Second was whether the appellant, as the owner of the clock tower, that is, appellant is the MCD, abutting on the highway, is bound to maintain it in proper state of repair, so as not to cause any injury to any member of the public using the highway, and whether the appellant is liable whether the defect is patent or whether the defect is latent or patent. Right. Third was whether the appellant was negligent in looking after the and maintaining the clock tower, and was liable to pay damages for the death of the persons resulting from its fall. So the in order to respect the principle will be applicable or not, whether MCD is under the duty of care or not, and whether they are liable to pay damages or not. So in this case, it was observed by the court. It was stated by the court that when we talk about a normal rule where the negligence takes place, as a normal rule, it is for the plaintiff to prove negligence and not for the defendant to prove it. Defendant will disprove that I have done any kind of negligence. But there is an exception to this rule, which applies where the circumstances surrounding the things which causes the damage are at the material time exclusively under the control or management of the defendant and his servant, and the happening is such as does not occur in the ordinary course of things, and without negligence on the part of the defendant. So court said that until and unless there is some duty of care of the defendant and they have failed to perform that duty of care, and because of that non-performance some event happened, some damages or injuries are caused, then the defendant need not prove this thing. And there are certain situations and circumstances in which it is apparent that the defendant has failed to take duty of care. They have failed to maintain or take care of a particular structure, and therefore they are booked for the liability of negligence. And in this case, court has also cited the Halsbury Law of England's second edition concept relating to the negligence and what is it and what aspect it is to be applicable. So court has said this thing that when we are talking about the principle of the rule of res esper loquitur, we state that there are certain things under which it is not required to prove or disprove whether actually the negligence has been done by the authorities. When an event happens, when there is some particular situation that exists, it speaks for itself. It clearly states that it is because of the non-performance of the duty that a particular event has happened. So in this case, in view of the facts that the building that the building had passed its normal age at which the mortar could be expected. So court applied the principle of res esper loquitur to the present case and held that it is manifest that the appellant is guilty of negligence because of the potential danger of the clock tower maintained by it having not been subjected to a careful and systematic inspection, which it was the duty of appellant to take care. So court said that the doctrine of res est per loquitur will no doubt will apply in the given circumstances, and it is not the case of appellant that there was any earthquake or storm. That is, appellant here is MCT, who were the defendant. So the court said that they cannot claim that it is because of the earthquake or storm or natural event that was unforeseen, or which could have be the cause of for the fall of the clock tower. The court said that under these circumstances, the mere fact that there was fall of clock tower, this incident tells its own story in raising an inference of negligence on the part of defendants to establish a prima facie case against the defendants, that is the appellants. Okay, so in this case, court has laid down this principle, and there are other cases also, that is Ring versus Cohen, where the plaintiff was the owner of a lockup shop in a place, and the defendant Cohen was the owner of adjoining house. The defendant had led his premises to a tenant, and what happened? The defendant house collapsed owing to storm, and there was and it fell through the roof of the plaintiff shop. So there were evidences that the wall at the gable was not maintained, and because of which the incident happened, because of which the damages were caused. So court has again said this in this case, that the duty of repair is on the defendant to ensure that there are time and again repair being done of the building, and failing which will bring him under the act of negligence. Okay, so this is another case where the court has applied the rule of res est per loquitur. Another is Municipal Corporation of Delhi versus Sushil Devi, where a person died because of fall of the branch of the tree standing on the road on his head. The MCD was held liable and to pay compensation. So, what is the legal position? So, we say that there is a special obligation on the owner, right, of any premises, building, or any such thing for the safety to ensure that that particular structure is maintained, it is repaired, it is time and again checked that it is not going out, will lead to any injury or damages. And if these structures fall into disrepair so as to be potential danger to the pass buyers or to be a nuisance, the owner will be held liable for any damages or injuries which is caused to the pass buyers or to any person who is within the vicinity of that particular structure. Okay, and in such a case, it is no defense for the owner to prove that he neither knew or ought to have known of the danger. The duty to take care is there if there is any structural building that can cause any injury or harm. So, what is it that what is it can be said that the owner is legally responsible, irrespective of whether the damages that has been caused is patent or latent. Whether you can uh, foresee it or you cannot foresee it, the damage is such, the event is such that wherein under which circumstances the defendant will be held liable under such circumstances. Right. Now, the next part that we'll need to discuss is we need to take up under negligence is that of contributory negligence, which act as a defense of negligence. So, normally we have seen that the burden of establishing the tortious liability is on the claimant, whereas the burden of establishing the defenses is on the defendant. That is, if I am the victim, I need to prove that there is some tortious liability that has been committed, and it is will be for the defendant to prove the defenses that I have not committed any tortious, right? So, if a claimant establishes a successful cause of action in tort, then it is open to the defendant to plead one or more defenses that are available, right? So, a successful defense is established. Why? What is the reason for these defenses? So that defendant's liability for damages can be reduced. Defendant can be absolved from the liability, right? It is basically to relieve the defendant from any act that has been claimed of as against the defendant. So these defenses are there whenever there is any wrong which has been claimed as against the defendant has committed a wrong against another person. So when we talk about defenses that can be taken up under negligence is, or the defendant that can take up is, the defendant can say that he can deny that he owed any duty towards the plaintiff. Then he can deny that he has not taken any care that a reasonable person would have taken. He may plead that the contributory negligence is there on the part of the plaintiff. Then the defendant can also take up voluntary non-fit injuria, which we have already discussed. That means that no wrong is done to one who consents. A claimant who voluntarily agrees to undertake a risk of incurring harm is not permitted to sue for any consequent damages of where he has taken the risk. That is voluntary non-fit injuria that we have already done. Then ex turpi causa non oritur actio, that is, no right of action arises from a disgraceful cause. Any illegality is there during which the injuries are sustained. Okay, so what is it? The effect of these defenses is to completely absolve the defendant from the liability of damages. The purpose of defenses is that. So when we talk about contributory negligence, we often, when we talk about any kind of harm which is suffered by the plaintiff, so it has been stated that any harm which is suffered by the plaintiff is not solely due to the negligence of defendant, but also due to the negligence of plaintiff. So contributory negligence is an expression, is that expression which implies that person who has suffered damages is also guilty of some negligence and has contributed towards the damage. So what is contributory negligence? Contributory negligence is negligence on the part of plaintiff and is an act or omission which constitute negligence. That is, the plaintiff has either committed or omitted in doing a particular act. So in order to establish this defense, the defendant need to prove certain things. First is the injury of which the plaintiff complains results from particular risk to which the negligence of plaintiff exposed him. Because of the negligence of plaintiff got exposed to that particular injury. The negligence of plaintiff contributed to his injury. There was fault or negligence on the part of the plaintiff. So these are certain things that one need to prove in order to take the ground of contributory negligence, that I am exposed because of my own acts. I have contributed to it, right? And it was because of my fault that I have suffered any injury. So it has been stated that when we talk about contributory negligence, what is it? It means want of care towards oneself against unreasonable risk of injury. Negligence, as Dr. John D. Fleming says, that negligence means is there exists in such situation where the duty of care has not been taken up. So when this duty of care is not taken up towards yourself, towards one on self, right, to avoid any risk or injury, then it is contributory negligence. Okay, so you owe duty to take care towards yourself, towards others also. But when we talk about this contributory negligence, we say that in common law, in order to mitigate the effect of this rule of contributory negligence, right, where if the plaintiff negligence is proved, because when we talk about contributory negligence, what are we talking about? We are talking about the situation where if the plaintiff negligence is proved, plaintiff will not be entitled to recover any damages. Right? This is the rule of contributory negligence, that a person will not be entitled to claim any damages. So in order to mitigate this rule, that where the plaintiff is not left with any other option, court has laid down the rule of last opportunity. So the rule of last opportunity says that the party who had the last opportunity to avoid the harm or accident or mishap, right, after taking an ordinary care, then that person who had that last opportunity will be held liable for loss. Therefore, when we say that a defendant cannot take the plea of contributory negligence of plaintiff under all the circumstances if the last opportunity rule is proved. If it is said that the defendant has the last opportunity to avoid the harm. So Salmond has explained that when an accident happens through the combined negligence of two persons, he alone is responsible to the other who had last opportunity of avoiding the accident by reasonable care. So if I had that opportunity of avoiding the accident, then I'll be held liable for any injury or harm or damage that has been caused. Okay, so this has been explained in various cases, like in Davies versus Man, where the plaintiff left his donkey negligently after tying his leg on highway, and defendant subsequently came fast in his wagon and negligently ran over the donkey and killed it. So in this case, the defendant was held liable because defendant had the last opportunity to avoid that accident, to avoid that injury that could have happened, right? So the question that was taken up by the court is that in this case, the issue was who is liable when the plaintiff contributes to the outcome, but defendant had the last clear chance of avoiding the injury. So court held that it is the defendant that will be held liable. The court said that a plaintiff still has a cause of action if it is the defendant's negligence that ultimately caused the injury. That is, if a non-negligent defendant would not have caused the injury despite the plaintiff negligence, then the plaintiff can successfully sue the defendant. If the defendant had that last opportunity to avoid a particular incident to happen, then the defendant will be held liable, right? So what court said that the defendant had the last chance to prevent the injury and his negligence was more blameworthy because a non-negligent driver would not have killed the donkey despite the plaintiff negligence. Is it clear? So this is the main observation of the court in this case. So what we can say according to this rule, what is it? The party whose negligence was earlier in point of time, that is the plaintiff who could have been held liable for contributory negligence, can escape the liability if the other, that is the defendant whose negligence can be established subsequently. Right? How we can establish it subsequently? By saying that there was a rule of last opportunity that could have been applied by the defendant. Right? So when we talk about the Indian position, in India also there are various cases that have been taken up by the court, like in Kota Transport versus Jawahar Transport case, where the plaintiff bus was damaged owing to rash and negligent act of driver of the defendant. Now the question was whether there exists contributory negligence and will it be can it be pleaded or will it be successful or not. So it was held that where it is shown that there was negligence on the part of the plaintiff which contributed to the accident, the plea of contributory negligence may be available notwithstanding the defendant's negligence. So this is on contributory negligence that the court has decided that what is it that when we talk about contributory negligence, what is it that we need to take into consideration. Another case where the Supreme Court has observed the contributory negligence is the MCD versus Lakshman Iyer, where a court observed that where an accident is due to the negligence of both the parties substantially, there would be contributory negligence and both the parties would be blamed. Right? So another case that is there is, so you can go through all these cases for contributory negligence that is there under Indian situation. So Pramod Kumar versus Karmse and others, where the question of contributory negligence arises when there has been some act or omission on the part of claimant part which has materially contributed to the damages caused and is of such a nature that it is properly described as negligence. Right? So court has again taken up that what is meant by contributory negligence. And in this case, court has also cited the observation which is made by the court, Australian courts, and it has been said that when we talk about contributory negligence, it focuses on the conduct of plaintiff. So the duties and responsibility of defendant are a variable factor in determining whether the contributory negligence actually exists or not, and if it exists, to what extent. So the act of both the parties will be looked into, right? So courts are saying what that when we are talking about any situation, any circumstances, we need to see to what extent the liability can uh, be taken up or it can be established, whether it will be the liability of the plaintiff or defendant. We need to see whether the principle, the rule of res loquitur can be applied or not, whether there is duty to take care or not, whether it has been being done, has been there is known performance of that duty to take care, and because of which the injuries has happened, or even if there is duty to take care is there, but this because of the negligence of the plaintiff, some injury happened, which leads to contributory negligence, right? And despite that fact, even if there is contributory negligence, the defendant had the last opportunity to avoid the particular incident. So these are things that are taken up by the court in order to decide whether a party is liable for a particular act or not, for a particular act of negligence or not. So these are few concepts that were there under negligence. And with this, we are done with our topic for negligence. That is your first topic from Unit 2.